Hi there again. Thank you for joining our next COVID-19 webinar series around building your career based on online and the landscape that COVID-19 has created. We've had many questions about how are we going to now network and build relationships when we have to stay 6 feet away from each other and we can't leave our houses. It's a fair question. And I do think that there's a lot of options still available, but what you have to do is get savvy with the tools that are available to you. So my goal today is to share exactly what we would recommend in Manchester Career and Professional Success to build your network with this online space. So my name is Jamie and I'm the director of Manchester CaPS, and we're going to jump right into it. So why networking? Why is this so important? So many people are really tempted when they need a job or an internship just to jump onto job boards and start Googling and researching and applying to jobs cold online. But really, the statistics show that networking is the way to go. So it depends on what resource you look at, but between 70 and 80% of jobs are typically found through networking. And what do we mean by networking exactly? Well, networking means through knowing somebody. Networking sometimes feels like this big scary word that implies, a very uncomfortable situation or a forced situation or something that a lot of people shy away from. But the reality is, what networking is just building relationships with people and having conversations. That's all it is, and that's all you have to really do to get through the barrier of networking. Another thing that's really important to keep in mind is that 7% of job applicants get a referral from the company that they're applying to, which is really interesting, right? That means 93% apply cold and only 7% know somebody there that could give them a reference. However, if you have a referral, that's where 40% of the hires come from. So think about it. If only 7% show up with knowing somebody, but you're 40% more likely to get hired, well, then what you really want to do is be that person that comes with that referral. And then 70 to 80% of jobs aren't even published. It's called the hidden job market. And those are jobs that you'll never even hear about unless you build those relationships and start having those conversations. Again, in the age of COVID-19, what's happening is the job market just got more competitive. So what you want to do is make sure that you really have all the biggest edge possible to be able to get that opportunity. And the way you get that edge is to have someone that can vouch for you. When there's way more applicants than there are jobs, what you want to do is be able to figure out how do you rise to the top of that pile when a recruiter is looking for who's the best candidate for their role, especially if they have limited opportunities. And what that's going to do is if you have somebody that says, swings by the recruiter's desk and says, hey, I've met so-and-so, they were really great. I just think you should take an extra look at their application. Well, if they have a stack of 200 resumes, yours just came to the top. And that's what networking can do for you. So here's the thing, and you're probably thinking about this right now as I say this whole sentence and whole spiel about knowing someone at the company is that's great, but I don't know anybody who works where I'm applying. But what I want you to start thinking about is you don't know anybody yet who works where you're applying. That doesn't mean that you can't know people in the future. The people that you know is not static. This is an ever-changing thing that you're able to build and grow on. So if you have a goal or aspiration to break into a field or an industry or a company, what you want to do is be strategic and really start having those conversations and building those relationships. So you can say, so you're not saying, I don't have those relationships. You're saying, I don't have those relationships yet, but we're going to talk about ways that you can build them. So what I want to mention is how you want to think about networking. Because the problem is sometimes people don't consider building relationships until they absolutely need that job. And then the hard part about that, it's similar to trying to build any relationship where you have an agenda. The person you're building a relationship knows the only reason you're talking to them is because you need them for something, which really isn't a great feeling. So again, networking is really just all about relationships and having conversations and getting to know people. Relationships are built on trust, they're built long-term, and they're built with mutual understanding and respect and support for one another. So here's what you should think about. Networking is a long-term relationship. Networking is a place to develop ideas, ask questions, and share experiences. Sometimes you just want to be having the conversation about learning about the industry, learning about the person, and have there be no ask. And the ask will eventually come if you build a strong foundation of relationship. Or you may not even need to ask, the person will come to you and say, hey, you know, I know of this opportunity or something, because you led with value and you led genuinely, not with an agenda. But you're able to ask for other contacts and really build upon the conversations you're having with one person, learn more about who they know, and try to build relationships getting closer and closer to that end goal. Networking is not a short-term relationship where you're, you know, quick in and out. You're just really trying to get what you're looking for. People know that. People feel used when you do that. So you really have to start thinking long-term. They're not asking for preferential treatment. So again, if you don't know somebody, you can't say, you know, I know we just met, but I applied to a job at your company. Can you be a referral for me? But what you want to do is make a really great first impression so that if they're on your hiring board, they have a good impression of you. Or if you make that great impression and you continue to follow up and you cultivate that relationship, maybe they will reach out to that recruiter and say, hey, just so you know, I did talk to this person. They're a new person in my sphere. They're a new person I just met, but I got a really great impression of them. You should look at them twice. It's not using somebody. And that's where you need to just be careful in how you approach those conversations. Okay, so here's the process. So what you want to do is you want to start identifying the people that you know right in this minute. You'd be surprised how many people you know, and then you'll be even more surprised how many people you know and how many people they know. Your circle becomes quite large when you start peeling out the layers in that way. So what you want to do is identify those people. You want to start talking about, you know, I'm really looking for an internship in, you know, the biotech field, or I'm really looking for, you know, that first job I'm about to graduate and I'm on my way into the job field, and these are the things that, you know, I'm really interested in doing. You want to see if they can follow up with their connections. So say, do you know anybody that works in these companies or in this field? And then try to have that informational interview. And when an informational interview is just that, you're not asking for the job or referral, but you are asking for information. And then you keep repeating the process as you get closer and closer to that decision maker. So as you start thinking through this piece, what you want to think about when you're sharing your professional objective, what is an appropriate professional objective? Yes, the reality is you really might be looking for an internship, and the reality is you really might be looking for a job, and that's okay, and that's great. But what you want to be doing is, again, leading from a place of looking for information so people don't feel used or don't feel pressured. So an appropriate objective is, I'd like to grow my experience in X field. It feels a little bit more open-ended. I'm hoping to learn more about the day-to-day in X profession. Or I'm interested in applying to this company and I want to learn a little bit more about their culture. And I know you're connected to so-and-so that works there. Would you be willing to introduce me? Those things are appropriate objectives. I want to work for X company and I'd like you to help me get a job. It's a little bit too direct and that's not the best way to go. People pretty much shut down and it makes you kind of look unprofessional and again, like you're using that person. So keep in mind that searching for jobs, again, is no different than any other relationship building process where you want to lead with value and you want to be genuine and you want it to think long term where people don't feel like you're in it just for the quick win. So start thinking about who's in your natural network. Who do you already know? All right. So think about it. So there's you. And then you have maybe other supervisors that you've had at jobs in the past, even whether they're in your industry or not. Like I work in higher ed. I know a lot of people that work in different industries. Just because I'm in higher ed doesn't mean the only people I ever meet in my life or in my space are higher education people. So say I was a supervisor of somebody in the past, but they wanted to get into, you know, healthcare. I know a lot of nurses and a lot of people in the healthcare space. So maybe at first glance, you wouldn't think I was connected to that industry, but I certainly am. So I could be a great person for you to connect with because I can connect you to the people that I know in that field and in that space. Because I have family, I have friends, I have old colleagues, I have past networking connections. So I could be a great person to connect with, even if it seems not that obvious. The other thing is your family. So your family all go off and they have their own relationships in their own fields. And they know people well beyond their immediate space as well. And then The untapped resource is your professors. You got to understand your professors really, really know so many people. They're really well connected. A lot of our professors here at UNH Manchester have been working in their industry for quite some time and in the Manchester area connected to UNH for a really long time and may be very well known in your industry. So if you haven't connected with your professors and had these professional conversations with them, then you're really missing out and you're not accessing all the resources that are available to you here in Manchester. So when you're trying to think of, again, in the age of COVID-19, so all of those natural network conversations could be an email, a text message, a phone call, set up a Zoom meeting. If you have some time and space, this is the perfect time to be starting to set up networking calls, to start the ball rolling, to be able to be meeting new people in the space you're trying to get into. But when you go beyond those natural spaces and those text message conversations with people you already know, what you want to be doing is leveraging online platforms. Again, you can be sitting in your living room and you can be doing this research and you can build relationships from the couch. So you want to take advantage of those. So the two best online networking platforms are going to be Wildcat Connections and LinkedIn. And there's a couple of sneaky tricks that I want to show you about each. So I'm going to stop my screen share and I'm going to jump on and show you a walkthrough of each of those really quick. So bear with me through the transition. Okay, so we're back. So thank you for bearing with me through the transition. I want to start first with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is an obvious professional networking platform, but there's a couple sneaky tricks that I really want you to know about. So first, if you come up to this bar, I want you to search the University of New Hampshire. So you're going to see the company page of University of New Hampshire's page. So what you're going to find is that when you build your own LinkedIn page, or when other people who are alumni of the university have built theirs, one of the things it'll ask you as you build your page is, where did you go to school and what did you major in? Now, when you fill that piece out, usually if you start searching University of New Hampshire, you're going to actually click and have your profile linked to UNH. Well, the interesting thing is what that does is it gives you on here this page, which is the University of New Hampshire, and you'll see 97,550 plus alumni. So as people come on here and build their own profiles and say, yes, I got a degree from UNH, you're going to find that they kind of collect here and you're able to do some data research. So if you're on the page and you scroll down, you'll see alumni. Once you click here, what you're doing is you're searching strictly UNH alumni. Now, if you don't know my own professional history, I actually came from Durham and I used to work in alumni relations. So one of the things that I used to be floored by every time I was at a networking event, I was at a holiday party, or I was just talking to alums that I met, is I've never ever seen a more supportive alumni community ever in my whole higher education experience and even in my own alma mater. So what you want to do is really, yes, you could do any amount of outreach to anybody, but the reality is you have this connection to other UNH Wildcats that have graduated, so leverage that connection. It's a lot easier to reach out to somebody when you have common ground. So here you can see that a whole bunch of people will pop up. You can see a little bit about where they live. You can see about where they work and a whole bunch of additional information. What I want you to do is search a job title. So let's go project manager. So you can search a keyword, you can search a company, you can search a location, you can search just a job title, anything like that. So what you're going to see is that in the job title with project manager, a whole bunch of additional information is going to come up, where they're living and working and where people who hold those titles are. So you'll come down here and you'll see project manager. This other person is a project manager at Staples, project manager at Abbott. So what you can start doing is data digging for people who have the same job as you or that you're looking for, or you can data dig on people who work at the company that you're interested in. And then what you can do is you can use this as a connection. So say you really want to talk to Laura Doherty. What you can do is you can click connect, and then it's going to give you an opportunity to add a note. And here in this note, you have 300 characters. So you want to say in 300 characters a real quick hello. I'm also a UNH grad, and I would love to connect with you to pick your brain about what it's like to be a project manager for Staples, or whatever it is that you're looking for. And keep in mind that now if I want to do project manager and I want to do a project manager, say in Boston, I don't know if it'll like that I did. Perfect. Yep. So then what you'll see is you'll see 16,000 alums that have in somewhere in their profile Boston and project manager. And again, you can come back down and sift through people. So this is a really, really strong tool that'll allow you to be able to connect with alums that are in the job, the industry, or the space that you're looking to join. The other thing that you can do on LinkedIn, and I won't go through this right now, but is you can join other networks and groups. So you can join a group that you're interested in and start building relationships with other professionals in your space. And then the next one I want to show you is going to be Wildcat Connections. So there's a lot of action going on here, and it's basically a supercharged LinkedIn for the Wildcat community. So it's exclusively UNH, and every single alum that's on this platform have signed up because they have a passion for helping students get where they want to go professionally. So you're going to get a really, really warm response here. Now, the difference from LinkedIn, everyone on LinkedIn didn't necessarily join LinkedIn with the intention of being a mentor to a student. But truthfully, people are pretty receptive to that. If you reach out with asking for information and building relationships, you're going to do really, really well on LinkedIn. But it's kind of a, this Wildcat Connections is basically a warm lead. So you can come here and you can search by location, you can search by majors, and add more filters. And then you can just find people here that will fit those filter criteria and reach out to connect with them. The other thing you can do to be able to get more broad-based relationships is join and check out the groups that are here in Wildcat Connections. So let's just let that load real quick. And then if you go all groups, you'll see there's a whole bunch of different groups here that have active members. And we're just loading slowly. But here, as this populates, you'll just be able to see that it's either by major or by industry and different focus groups. So you could come into Wildcat Connections and then find all the groups there and find the ones that are most relevant to you and jump on and join those. So these would be my recommendation. And then with that, it doesn't need to fully load. You can jump in and build your profile and check those out on your own. I'm going to swap again. So again, bear with me on the transition. I'm going to swap back to our presentation. Okay, and we're back. Awesome. So now that we did the walkthrough, I hope you're a little bit more comfortable on how you can outreach people on each of those platforms. So one of the things about networking that's super challenging is starting that first conversation. So what's your elevator pitch? Now, if you've heard this presentation before, and if you remember elevator pitches from the past, pre-COVID-19, one of the things that you would typically do is come up with your spiel that you would say in person. So that if at a networking event, you walked up to somebody and said, "Hi, I'm Jamie, it's nice to meet you. You could go into your elevator pitch that said, I'm the Director of Career and Professional Success at UNH Manchester, and I have a passion for helping students succeed in the workforce. And I'm looking to build relationships with other employers to support our students." So maybe that's my elevator pitch. But that feels very great if I'm meeting someone in person. But now you kind of have to take a new approach and build your online elevator pitch. So what this looks like is when you saw in the walkthrough, leveraging this 30 characters that you have. So in LinkedIn, unless you have a paid profile, you can't just outreach somebody without connecting with them. So you want to hit connect with that person, add a note. Please don't just connect with them. If you just connect with them and hope that they'll accept you and then you can message them after, it's not the best way. You kind of want to give them a reason if they don't know you at all to know why you're connecting with them. And then you have 300 characters to make an impact. So that's a 300 character elevator pitch. And then the same with Wildcat Connections. So if you go to connect with somebody, it'll give you the ability to email them through the platform. So you have much more than 300 characters to play with. But to be honest, if you haven't connected with them, you still kind of want to keep it short and sweet and professional. It'll give you a couple templates, so you can pick through the templates when you go on Wildcat Connections. But at the same time, you definitely want to customize it so that it shows that you put thought into that outreach. And always, always remember, you want to ask for help, not a job. So here's your networking cheat sheet. You want to be yourself. You want to be a giver before you're a taker and you're asking for anything. You want to be mindful of asking questions. You want to be an active listener. And then you want to make sure you do follow up and say, you know, hey, thanks. I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday. And I just want you to know that I know you're really busy. It meant a lot to me. You're willing to take the time out to talk to me. So thank you again for that. So definitely do that follow up and be focused on gratitude for the people that are giving you their time. The next thing that I would say is also do your research and come prepared. So if you do make a connection, you really don't want to show up to that conversation and say, you know, so tell me everything, and not have anything to dig from. You don't want to expect that person to carry the conversation. So with that, really do research on them and their background. You want to do research on the company that they're working for, the industry, and then list out some questions so you can drive that conversation in a meaningful way. So where can you network now? So we just talked about a whole bunch of options, but let's just run through the list. So you can do networking on LinkedIn. So you can work with alumni through the tools I just showed you, groups, and then you can just research and outreach anybody. So that's really, it doesn't have to be an alum. It could be anybody. I just know that UNH alumni are typically really excited to hear from students. Wildcat Connections. So again, those one-on-one conversations and the groups. Facebook's another great option. So there's a lot of industry and interest groups that you can join and learn about, again, more what's happening in your industry, and then also message people, start conversations and say, hey, I would love to jump on a phone call and pick your brain a little bit about, you know, this company I see you work for. Do you have a few minutes? Things like that. And then other networking groups. So this one's a little open-ended, but there are, when we say, you know, jump into industry networking groups in person, a lot of those are still continuing, but now they're continuing online. So definitely do some research on any of the groups you were previously aware of, or just do some Googling and find some new ones. Because what you'll find is that these groups and these people have not stopped collaborating. They just have moved it to an online space. So see if you can jump into any of those. And then again, with the people you already know, you want to call, you want to text, or you want to email and say, hey, you know, I'm looking to go on internship next year, or this summer or this fall, or I'm about to graduate from UNH, and I would love to talk to you a little bit about where I'm trying to head in my career and pick your brain a little bit about yours and go from there. More than anything, you want to make sure that you're actually making things happen. So one of the biggest things that we see with networking, it feels extremely open-ended, and people say, yep, I want to build relationships. But that doesn't really mean much, and that's something that's really vague that's hard to get started with. So you probably have seen this before, but I absolutely love it, is set up some SMART goals around your networking initiatives. So you want to be specific. I'm going to build relationships with people through LinkedIn and through Facebook groups. Make it measurable. So I'm going to talk to 2 people a week. That's my goal. Make it attainable. 2 people feels reasonable. Maybe 35 feels like it's not reasonable. Maybe 2 feels like it's kind of short. Maybe your goal really should be 5. 5 outreaches in a week is not impossible. But now you have a real goal. I'm going to talk to 5 people about my goals to pick their brain about their industry, their jobs, and build relationships. That feels attainable. Is it relevant? So of course it is. I think that this is a total worthwhile initiative. Do you know exactly what's going to come out of those conversations? Of course not. You can't. But you know that the more people you talk to, you're headed in the right direction. And say it's timely. Make sure you put an end cap to it. So again, 5 a week. That would be a perfect SMART goal. So what I want to see you do is say, here's my goal, and this is what I'm going to write it out and make it actionable so that you'll actually make it happen. And then, of course, if you're looking for additional help, we're here for you. And that's the point of this whole webinar series. So just make sure you're leveraging all of the things that are available to you here at UNH Manchester. So first and foremost, you can make an appointment with me or with Maggie right on Handshake. So we can walk you through all these steps. We can work on that SMART goal together and give you those actionable items to be able to build those relationships. The other thing with Handshake you can do is optimize your profile and connect with other employers right on there too. So that would be a really great place to start. What you want to do is also optimize your resume. So if you really haven't done a deep dive into your resume, check out VMock. VMock is an online artificial intelligence that you have access to that will give you a lot of progress on your resume before you even meet with Maggie or I. And then more than ever, you want to be practicing your virtual interview skills with Interview Stream. So Interview Stream is a great way to record yourself doing an interview, practice interviewing online, and then be able to see it back and get better at it over and over. Being able to build relationships online, this new space of being on camera, feels very foreign to a lot of people. If it feels foreign to you, practice makes perfect. It's true for anything. An Interview Stream is a great tool to do that. So I hope that you found this helpful. But if you have any lingering questions, please, 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 Maggie and I would love to talk to you. So definitely jump on Handshake and schedule a meeting with us.